Hello, me handsomes. Now, today I'm going to talk about something different. It's very off topic from what we normally discuss, but I think it's a really important thing for me anyway to discuss. So, it's sports related, this, and in particular, it's football related. Now, if you've seen some of the previous videos, you'll understand I'm a Reading football fan. Mainly comes from family roots. Our granddad was a massive Reading fan, and it's kind of trickled down from there for us. Now, if you've kind of seen the news, and I'll get onto this in a moment about the news coverage, you'll have seen that Reading are in a very dire situation at the moment where we have, it's probably at this point when it's released, less than 40 days until we either get a new owner in or the club is kicked out of the English football leagues, which is a travesty for a club like Reading, who within this century have been in the Premier League twice. We're a steady championship club, and since we've had this ownership issue, we've had transfer embargoes after transfer embargoes, and that has ultimately pushed us down to League One, where we are now in the state we're in, which is not a very good state. It's unfair to the fans. Obviously, the owner, Dai Young, is probably the biggest culprit that we can shout and scream at all he wants. But I think the real villains here are ultimately the English Football League. The EFL, they did not do the proper checks when they got this owner in. The owner has a history of this, of destroying clubs, destroying communities, destroying fan bases. And I think if Reading were to get kicked out of the league, the devastation it would cause on the town, the fan base, we've got a big stadium, would ruin it. They've recently built a train station towards the stadium. It would just ruin the whole area. Now, I don't live in the area, so I don't see these effects on a day-to-day basis. And I'll be totally honest, this season I've almost completely boycotted the club. I've watched them on TV a couple of times, but just due to the situation, that's my way of kind of being protested with it. Just completely avoid it. I'm not a big fan of the tennis balls being thrown on the pitch and chants and stuff like that. I believe the best way to boycott it is just to not go, which is what I've kind of exercised this year. We'll try and go to a few games a year. Being from Devon, train tickets are expensive and the football tickets are expensive, but with the way it's been recently, I just completely boycotted it. Even when they came down to Exeter, which isn't that far for us, I didn't really bother looking at tickets. I just didn't want to know what's going on. Now, obviously, if someone comes in, new ownership, fantastic. Saves the day, a new hero, hopefully gets us back on track. We're allowed to start spending some money, buy some players, get to where we should be. And I think ultimately we should be a championship club that's the higher end of the championship, at least, pushing for playoffs year in and year out. We've not seen playoffs since Jaap Stam was the manager. But like I said, getting back to the kind of topic of who the real villains are, the EFL, I think if Reading were to go, the EFL need to be heavily protested. They need to be heavily investigated into, because I think ultimately the EFL will have killed the club. We can say obviously it was the owner, he's got his own issues internationally and domestic, but ultimately the EFL granted him permission to buy the club. The EFL have been the ones to punish when the finances haven't gone well, and the EFL would be the ones that kill the club were it to get kicked out of the league, which is obviously their decision as well. So it needs to be heavily looked at. We need to look at putting pressure on the EFL, a big restructure of how they operate and how they do things, because it's not good enough. I don't think Reading will be the first and be the last. We've seen situations happen before where clubs go into administration, bad ownerships, and so it needs to change. And I think that needs to start with looking at the EFL. So apologies, it's obviously not the usual videos I do, but this is something I just need to get off my chest. It's anger, and a lot of anger's come this weekend following a court case, and I think enough's enough. We need to start looking at the EFL and put real pressure on them. So yeah, ta for now. Take care.